Hi everyone. LRDI as a section for CAT, is one of the most unpredictable sections. And hence most of the students, whether they are engineers, whether they are non-engineers, somehow or the other have an issue with LRDI. Well, I'm here to help you with that, and I hope at the end of this video, you at least have a proper structure to start your preparation for LRDI and take it from here onwards to CAT 2026, that is November 2026. Let's start with the important things first. Now, when I talk about LRDI, the most common issue which students have, sir, where do I actually start with? What is the first thing which I should do? Well, the problem arises over here because there is no proper defined syllabus. There is no defined syllabus for LRDI. What they will ask every year and all is just based on what has been asked in the earlier years. So LRDI has no definite syllabus. Yes, we can say there is DI to learn, there is some logical reasonings, there are some puzzles, there is conditionalities, assignments, and so on. Different things are there. But very frankly, there is no defined syllabus. Okay, every year you keep seeing something or the other which is maybe different from the earlier years. Well, what are you supposed to do? Well, one thing is definitely that you need to improve your logical reasoning. Your logical reasoning abilities have to improve. So if you're right at the start improving that. How do you improve logical reasoning ability? Start solving some puzzles. I've always mentioned Sudoku, and especially the difficult level Sudoku definitely helps you improve that. Kakuro helps you with numbers, or anything else like Wordle helps you. Wordle, a lot of people think is only English, but I think also it is a pretty there's a pretty good logic in it also. So if you start solving all these puzzles, they will definitely improve your logical reasoning. That's my first part to it. Then what is the other thing you need to do? Now let's first define how do you go about your studies. After this, or even with this, the first thing which I would actually start out of some material would be arrangement questions. Whether they are linear, they are circular, or whether they are making up a small table or something with some conditions. Normally these conditions are like 5 friends live in 5 different cities, have 5 different cars, or whatever, those type of conditions are in a particular 5 different professions, trying to make a 5x5 table with them or a 5x4 table with them. And that's how you start. That is where it starts improving logic. Okay. And initially just worry about how much, not so much about how much time you're taking per set, but are you understanding the statements? Are you able to identify the statement which is giving you direct information or statement which is giving you indirect information, so that what happens is when you look at a set, later on you're able to identify that yes, this statement is a direct statement, this statement is an indirect statement, because that will be the main point for us to start identifying sets, whether we should do them or we should leave them. Also understand, on the day of the CAT, if there are 5 sets, nobody's going to be able to solve all 5 sets. 3 sets are good enough. Normally to get a 99 percentile plus, even 3 sets are good enough. So don't worry about wanting to solve everything. Don't worry about trying to solve a set within 8 minutes or something like that, because that is never going to happen. Okay. The second part is now go to after you've done arrangements, linear, circular, start doing those conditionality problems, understand what is if and then, start binary logic, improves your logic, even though binary logic is not directly asked in CAT, but definitely improves your logical thinking. So all these things happen. Side by side, start doing DI a little bit, improve your calculations. People just think because we have a calculator in the test now, we don't need to worry about calculations. It is not so, especially in DI. If at every stage of the problem, if you need to go to a calculator, the amount of time which you will waste will be huge. So improve your basic calculations, get the terms and terminology properly. What is growth rate? What is a CAGR? What is a SAGR? Get all these terms right. So, when you look at them in a test, you don't really are worried about it or you fumble around them. Also look at different type of graphs. Like if you noticed last to last year, CAT had asked a candlestick graph. Now, if somebody's seen candlestick graphs earlier, they will find it very easy. Last year, they asked a spider web kind of graph. Spider web, they've been asking many years, but if you've solved enough spider web graphs, it will always be easier to identify those points, Otherwise, students are searching for those points. Do some trial and error. Was converting the graph to a table a healthy thing for me? Did I save time because of that? Next time, I will try directly from the graph. What is happening? In which case am I faster? So all these things become very important. That is trial and error. What works best for me? So for example, for me, it might work that I might look at a graph and say, okay, let me leave the graph as it is. I will do question per question as I go to the graph. For somebody, going to the graph every time might not be a great idea. They would want to convert it to a table and then quickly solve 4 or 5 questions from there. Whatever works for you, that's great. Keep trying that. Once you try different things, it will work. Now, how much should you solve? That's always been a question students ask me so many times. Sir, how many DILR sets? I'll come from where, that is the second part of it. First of all, how many DILR sets? So I normally tell them you have to look at approximately 14 to 15 a week. Because I don't want to give you a number of per day, because what happens is that if you're not solving on an everyday DILR, you might then miss out on something. So I would expect you to solve around 14 to 15 DILR sets per day. Okay, and at least 1 or 2 timed section tests. What happens with these timed section tests? You start creating some pressure of time on yourself. Okay, in fact, even with the practice, I want you to create that pressure of time on yourself. Is after a couple of months, maybe say the full March is over, mid-April is over, a good time to even start doing your practice with some amount of time pressure. Because by April, I would want you to solve roughly 2 sets in 40 minutes. Have you been able to reach that by say mid-April, end of April? I think that's a good point to reach. So your aim from here onwards to that point should be, am I able to solve 2 good quality sets in roughly 40 minutes? And when I say good quality sets, I'm here talking about sets which are from particular chapters, like maybe Venn diagram, tournaments and tournaments type sets, or cubes, and all those areas, conditionalities, assignment problems, all these areas. Are you able to solve within 40 minutes 2 sets? These should be CAT level sets, right? Initial practice can be of any type, don't worry about that. But by April end, if you're able to reach 2 sets in 40 minutes, I think that's a good benchmark for yourself. From here onwards, you have 2 months. Benchmark yourself and say whether I'm going to be able to reach there. Okay, now next part is the identification of sets. People miss out, and in fact, this is a discussion which I was having last year with somebody, that if CAT, instead of giving you 5 sets, I gave you only 2 sets in the exam, most of you all would have done well, right? Finally, if I tell you solve 2 for the exam, you are not able to solve. But if I gave you 2, you all will be able to solve. Why? The reason is very simple. The process of selection goes out. Here, most of the students are wasting time in selecting the wrong set and trying to solve it. And then they get emotionally attached. They look at a set and they just start solving it. And after 10 minutes, they feel that, oh, we have already invested so much time into the set. How can we leave it now? And now you're emotionally attached to the set. Nothing can be done. More or less, your CAT for that year will be over if something like that happens on the day of the CAT. In fact, these are the things you need to learn. You need to learn how to select the right set. So I will be obviously creating one more video on how to select sets only. But today, at least let's talk about the basic, only one part. How much direct information, how much indirect information is there in the set. And also, whenever you're solving sets, if you've selected a set or you're not selected or you're deselected a set, please think later. That means after you solve, when you analyze the set, think a little bit and ask yourself, why did I do this set? What was those conditions which made me feel that this set was doable? And what were those conditions which made me feel that this set is not doable? And identify whether they were right or wrong. Yes, it is never going to happen that you'll always select the right set. Once in a while, it will keep happening that you will select the wrong set. The idea is, over a period of time from here till November, we want to kind of reduce that drastically, so that on the day of the CAT, you're selecting the right sets and are able to solve them. Okay, so now comes the part of where do I solve from. Now, normally, depending on what, if you've joined a coaching, you'll have enough material from your coaching to solve. Always try to solve your DILR set with the same kind of time pressure and pressure which you have in the exam of everything else. So for example, try and use a small A5 paper only, because that is the kind of paper you have in the for rough work on the day of the CAT. Don't use a big book, because again, just get used to the idea. Everybody, in fact, should practice for all areas in the same way. Use a A5 sheet with you. A5 sheets are those typical notepads which you get. and try and use them only, because that will be the type of notepad which will be available on the day of the CAT. So now, post that, we spoke about, now we were talking about where to start solving. You can start solving, as I said, if you've joined a coaching or something, you'll have enough material. If you're an eye contact student, we have LRDI Essentials, we have LRDI Inception, and then we also have the classroom and the application, the live class sets and the application class sets. So enough material is available. Also, after April, you can start looking at CAT level sets. That means you can start looking at past CAT papers, past ZAT papers, and start looking at those sets also. They will give you a proper, now there are enough sets. If I look from 2016 onwards, and if I look at 2 or 3 slots per year, there are enough sets available over the years for you to solve. So that will also be good amount of practice. Next is, what should you do after you solve a set? Please analyze the set really well. If you're not going to analyze DILR, then it is a big problem. People just think that DILR, I'm sure a lot of people feel that. You can comment it, you can put it down in the comment later. A lot of people feel that, sir, DILR is an area I sometimes get or I don't get. It's just one way. Either I get a set, 1 or 2 sets very easily and I get a good score, or I don't get anything and I get a bad score. And people feel that how much ever I study, that is not going to change. Not true. The harder you work, the luckier you get. I'm sure all the people who have heard me before have heard me saying that this is my favorite quote. The harder you work, the luckier you get. Because when you see and solve more sets of LRDI, what happens is that your identification on the day of the CAT becomes that much easier. You are able to identify a set much easily, and you're able to say, okay, this is a doable one or not doable one. And that's the way, that is the main reason to solve more sets, nothing else. It's not like con that you will have some memory and because of that you'll remember some formula and you'll be able to do that. Not for those reasons, only because it brings up more muscle memory into your whole process of doing LRDI. Last part, now what I would say is the mocks. By when should you start solving mocks of LRDI or section tests or something like that? Somewhere post that April period, May, June is a good time to start solving mocks. How many mocks do you solve? Initially you solve 1 or 2 mocks, maybe May you solve only 2 or 3 mocks a month. June, July you solve maybe 1 a week, and then September onwards maybe you solve 2 a week, depending on where your syllabus is in all areas. And this is not only about LRDI, because it is about all area. Please, again, after every mock, it is better to solve 20 and analyze them rather than solve 40 and not analyze them. If you're not going to analyze your mocks, there is no point solving them. So that will be really a waste. Also, don't treat LRDI like an area which you will do towards the end, or I've done it right now and I will touch it later during CAT. Keep doing it on a regular basis. Only if you do LRDI on a regular basis. I would say that literally every alternate day from here onwards till November end, till the day of the CAT, you all should be solving LRDI minimum on every alternate days, and sometimes every day. Keep that number in mind, 15 to 20 sets a week. For people who are, say, not working or not in college, have taken a break, that number should go much higher. Okay, understand that you've taken a break so that you can study. That the number should go much higher. Don't worry about where you're solving the material. You could solve the material from a book, you could solve a material from an online portal, as I said, your own class or something else. All material is pretty good. Only solve that material for which you have good quality solutions available. Okay, that is very, very important. If you solve random material for which you don't have solutions available, you'll always be lost after you solve it. Oh, is my set correct or not correct? So before even starting a set, just ask yourself, do I have the solution available or not? Only then I will start solving. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. One more thing I would like to tell you all is, make a habit of doing things. Grow compoundedly every year. That means when you do Venn diagram, now there are Venn diagram and tournaments, I say, are 2 areas for CAT which every student should master really well. Because you might not know what else is asked, but at least sometimes, Venn diagram is asked, whether it is a 3-level Venn diagram or 4-level Venn diagram, you should be comfortable solving these things. So practice enough of these so that your growth happens, and practice, every week maybe have a habit of solving 2 Venn diagrams or 3 Venn diagrams, so that you know that you're going to do Venn diagrams regularly. Do all the areas automatically, maximum, minimum Venn diagrams, everything will get covered. At least, at most, all these terms will get covered, and I'm sure then you get comfortable solving such areas. So that is my whole thought about LRDI. I have a very simple logic. LRDI is definitely, the term is logic. You know, there is logical reasoning in LRDI, but I believe LRDI is rewarding more if you have consistency and stamina. That means if you just keep doing consistently from here onwards to CAT, that number could be 500 for somebody, number could be 700 for somebody, number could be 1000 for somebody. That many sets from here to November, then I'm sure you will do well. Best of luck. Thank you for watching.